In today's video, I'm gonna show how to make super easy high-protein bagels that you can store in the freezer, and 2 filling ideas that take 2 minutes each and have over 30 grams of protein. So first up, let's make the bagels. Before you start making the dough, you can already preheat the oven to 210 degrees Celsius or 410 F, and then add all-purpose flour to a bowl. You need 50 grams of flour per bagel. This recipe yields 6 bagels in total, so that's 300 grams of flour. Next is a strong pinch of salt before adding 1.5 teaspoons or 4.5 grams of baking powder, and then whisk everything together. In case you've ever bought self-rising flour from the store, this is the same thing, we just made it ourselves. The next ingredient that will add most of the protein is cottage cheese. This is an incredible protein source, 14 grams of protein and 65 calories per 100 grams. The salty taste of cottage cheese is excellent for bagels. Because it's formed in curds, however, we need to use a blender or a food processor. Add the same amount of cheese as flour, so 300 grams of cottage cheese, and then blend on high for 60 seconds. In case you don't want to deal with blending or cottage cheese at all, you can simply use the same amount of Greek yogurt or plain skyr if you have access to it. They both have similar macros, however they taste slightly sour, so just be aware of that. One thing with blending cottage cheese is that some blenders don't grip the cheese properly and it doesn't blend well. In that case, you need to take off the blender after 30 seconds or so, shake it and keep mixing, and if it's still not mixing properly, you can add a small splash of milk or water. This should be enough to turn it into a creamy consistency. So once it's fully mixed, you can add it to the bowl of flour and it will look like thick, heavy cream. So scoop everything out and then you can mix the flour and the cottage cheese with a spatula for a couple of seconds, but at some point you've gotta go in with your hands and start kneading the dough. This will take about a minute or two of kneading until this turns into a dough ball. Now, optionally, but I highly recommend doing this, add 10 grams of olive oil into the dough while kneading. This will not only make it softer but also add flavor, and after about 2 to 3 minutes in total, you should end up with a dough ball that's slightly sticky but still soft. You don't want to over knead the dough here like pizza, just turn it into a ball and that's enough. Once you have a dough ball, place it on your table or cutting board and roll it into a tube form about the size of your hand. You don't need to be super precise here, but I like to take out my measuring stick and roll it until I can split the dough into 6 pieces, about 2.5 centimeter 1 inch thick. In my experience, this is a pretty good thickness as the bagels will still rise once baked. Cut them into 6 pieces, then take out a sheet pan and add a little touch of oil. This is just so the bagels don't stick to the pan and you can remove them easier. Take 1 bagel and just poke a hole with your fingers into the middle of the dough. This will feel much softer than regular dough made with only flour and water, so you have to be a bit more gentle when forming them. At this stage, you can leave the bagels plain if you want. However, I like to add some seasoning. Add toasted white sesame seeds to a bowl with the same amount of black sesame seeds and a half a teaspoon of garlic powder and mix. You can also just use everything bagel seasoning if you can find it in the store. It has similar ingredients. Then crack 1 whole egg into a small plate. This will be our egg wash, and now simply spread some of the egg on top of all 6 bagels, followed up by a good pinch of the bagel seasoning until everything is covered. Okay, pop this into the oven for 17 to 20 minutes. They will become really nicely golden brown, but before that, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, Hume Health and their body analyzer pot. This little device is way more than just a regular scale. It uses built-in frequency sensors in the handle to scan your entire body, arms, legs and torso, and shows you detailed metrics like muscle mass and body fat for each area. After a quick scan, all your data syncs to the free Hume app, where you can set goals and track your progress over time. It doesn't just show you your weight, you get a full picture of how your body changes, including muscle mass and fat in different regions. You can even link the app with your phone's data, things like sleep, nutrition and daily activity, to get personalized health insights that actually make sense. If you want to check it out, use my code Felu or hit the link in the description. The code stacks with the current sale for up to 50% off, which is pretty solid. Thanks again to Hume Health for supporting the video. So, this is how the bagels should look after baking. Nice golden brown color. Right after baking, remove them from the baking sheet and let them fully cool down on a wire rack. This is an important step before freezing, otherwise they will keep steaming and make the bagels soggy in the freezer. Now that they are cooled down, I'm gonna slice all of them in half before putting them into the freezer, and I will show you why in just a second. Before you move on though, cut yourself small rectangles of parchment paper. You are gonna need them 2 pieces per bagel. Now stack the bottom and upper parts of each bagel with a piece of parchment paper in between so they don't stick together, and once you've stacked all the bagels, put them into a plastic bag and freeze them for up to 3 months. If you now want a bagel for breakfast, take out the bottom and top halves, grab out the air fryer and set it to 180 degrees Celsius or 350 F, set the timer to 7 minutes, I like to let it preheat for 2 minutes, and then add the completely frozen bagels with the inner part facing up into the air fryer for 5 minutes. Because we cut them in half, not only will the inner part be toasted, but the air frying process will take about half the time compared to a whole bagel. And now look how soft but still crunchy they are after air frying them directly from the freezer. Pretty cool. So my first bagel filling is a classic one. It starts with fat-free cream cheese. This is another really good source of protein, 60 calories and 10 grams of protein per 100 grams of cream cheese. Spread it on both sides of the bagel. You can put out quite a lot if you want. The macros are so good that it doesn't really matter. I added 100 grams total into one bagel. The actual protein source for this one is smoked wild salmon. This is such a lean source of protein. Look at these macros, 112 calories and 21 grams of protein, pretty much like chicken breast. I will put about 60 grams of salmon on top of the cream cheese and then the top part of the bagel, and I mean this just looks incredible. 358 calories and 33 grams of protein for a bagel, really solid. But wait until you see the next one. I call it the Italian style bagel alla Felu. It starts with fresh light mozzarella cheese. You guys need to try this cheese. Most grocery stores have it nowadays. 152 calories and 20 grams of protein are crazy macros for cheese. You can cut it into thin slices. About 60 grams is enough for one bagel. The next ingredient is deli meat. This one is chicken and again a really good protein source. 60 grams of deli meat per bagel is again a good amount. And finally, I also like to add some slice of tomatoes. So on a freshly toasted bagel, add half the mozzarella, then the chicken, followed up by the tomatoes, which I'm also going to salt. Fresh tomatoes always taste better salted, and I also like to add some optional salad, and finally the other half of the mozzarella cheese. I mean, look at this, and you can have this for your next breakfast. It has 388 calories and 34 grams of protein. The bagels by themselves, by the way, have 228 calories and 12 grams of protein. Everything will be written in the description box down below. I made a cookbook that's helped over 10,000 people lose weight. It has over 250 recipes, and I'm constantly updating it with new ones, which you get for free once you've purchased it. Also, I started live streaming daily on Twitch and on Kick, so come hang out, the links are in the description.